Salt, it sustains life, but it can also end it. It conducts electricity, whitens your t-shirt, and is found in food and rock, yet it tastes unlike any other rock. The plate holding your meal would be incomplete without it. Geologists call it halite, chemists call it sodium chloride, and the rest of us simply call it salt. This video will focus on the most commonly used salt, sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is composed of 40% sodium and 60% chlorine, which form an ionic bond. When sodium and chlorine atoms bond together, they create a dense cubic structure, and when multiple cubic structures align, they form crystals. In nature, salt occurs in its crystalline form. It is a hygroscopic material, meaning it attracts water. When dissolved in water, it splits into positively charged sodium ions and negatively charged chlorine ions. This property makes salt extremely valuable in chemical reactions. Salt can lower the freezing point of water, making it highly useful in colder climates for melting ice. It is also an excellent preservative, allowing food and other materials to be stored for extended periods. Its most common use, however, is in enhancing the flavor of food. A small pinch of salt can elevate the taste of any dish. Salt is recyclable by nature, meaning the salt you consume today could be millions of years old. Since it is naturally recyclable, it is unlikely to ever run out. In 2019, global salt production reached staggering levels. Salt primarily originates from sedimentary rocks rich in sodium and chlorine released by volcanoes and hydrothermal vents. Initially, the ocean's salt concentration was very low, but over millions of years, it has significantly increased. So how did salt build up in the oceans? The primary reason is rainwater. Rainwater flows through soil, rocks, and sediments, dissolving salt along the way. It carries these dissolved salts into rivers, which eventually flow into the sea. Over time, this process has caused the ocean's salinity to increase. In certain regions, salt flats or deposits naturally form. These are areas where salt accumulates without human intervention, and people harvest salt from these deposits to sustain their livelihoods. In ancient times, humans primarily used salt for food preservation and survival. Around 2,000 years ago, the Egyptians discovered how to preserve fish using salt, marking the beginning of the commercial salt trade. By 800 BCE, the Chinese began harvesting salt directly from seawater. Throughout history, wars and power struggles have been fought over salt. In Roman times, salt was incredibly valuable. Soldiers were often paid in salt to preserve their food. The Latin word for salt, salarium, is the origin of the English word salary. Words like salami, sauce, salsa, and salvation also originate from salarium, meaning salt. Why do we need salt? Salt contains nutrients essential for our bodies that we cannot produce ourselves. Human bodies are composed of approximately 0.15% salt, equivalent to around 75 grams of salt in a 50-kilogram person. Salt acts as an electrolyte, helping our cells, muscles, and nervous system function properly. For any movement, electrical signals from the brain must travel through nerves, and salt is essential in carrying those signals throughout the body. However, too much salt can be harmful. When we consume excess salt, our bodies excrete it through sweat, tears, and other means. If excess salt accumulates in the bloodstream, it causes blood vessels to constrict, raising blood pressure. If blood pressure becomes too high, it can lead to severe health issues, including death. Salt doesn't just come from seawater, it can also be mined from the earth. Millions of years ago, certain water bodies dried up, leaving behind salt deposits buried under layers of sediment. Today, we extract this underground salt through solution mining. In this process, fresh water is injected into underground salt deposits, dissolving the salt. The saltwater solution is then pumped back to the surface and heated to separate the salt. In some cases, salt is mined like coal. After extraction, large underground chambers are left where the salt was removed. These chambers are often used to store sensitive documents or materials because their salt walls maintain a constant humidity of 40% and provide natural temperature regulation. These cool, dry chambers are ideal for preservation. Of all the salt produced globally, only 15% is consumed as food. The remaining 85% is used in industrial applications, particularly in chemical production. When dissolved in water, salt undergoes electrolysis to produce chlorine, caustic soda, sodium hydroxide, and hydrogen, essential materials in various industries. Salt enhances flavor by stimulating the taste buds on the tongue. It activates specific receptors, increasing sensitivity to other flavors, which is why even a small amount of salt can significantly improve the taste of food. To learn more about salt's vast uses and its role in history, watch this video on the Science Sphere. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Science Sphere for more fascinating content.